Hey, it's Jay and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to tell you some really scary stories, like horror stories, because I really like horror stories and I think they're really interesting and I really hope you like them too. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, the first story I'm going to tell you today is called The Psychiatrist, and I think it's very interesting. And just a warning, I'm probably not going to be able to pronounce some of these things correctly because some of these things are in Japanese. So yeah, and I don't know Japanese, so I'm sorry if I pronounce anything wrong. I probably will. But let's get right into it. I'm a psychiatrist by profession, and over the course of my career, I have dealt with many people who have strange and unusual problems. However, one case in particular disturbed me more than any other. There was a family of 3 who lived next door to me. They were a married couple in their 60s, and they had a son who was about 30 years old. The son was what we in Japan called a hikikomori. Somebody who's introverted, reclusive, and isolated. Someone who has withdrawn from social contact. We never saw the son. People who are hikikomori usually lock themselves away in their rooms and avoid others. I didn't hear about his conditions directly from his parents. I assumed they didn't want to discuss it. In Japan, people are very concerned about appearances, and having a son who is hikikomori is an embarrassment. As the days passed, their son went out less and less. Eventually, he never came out of the house at all. Every night from his bedroom window, the furious voice of his mother could be heard screaming and shouting at him. Whenever I met the poor woman, she smiled and said hello, but the strain was showing in her face. She became pale and haggard. It had been almost 6 years since anyone had seen the son. One day, the father knocked on my door and asked me to come to his house. He knew I was a psychiatrist, and since we were neighbors, I decided to do what I could to help the family. When we got to the front door, the mother was there waiting for us. She led me upstairs to her son's room. She banged on the door with her fist and shouted, "We're coming in!" Then she burst into the room and shrieked, "Are you going to sleep forever? Get up, you lazy good-for-nothing!" Before I knew what was happening, she grabbed a golf club and started beating the sleeping figure under the covers. For a moment, I was struck dumb as she rained down blow after blow. Then, I sprang into action, grabbing the golf club and wrestling her out of the room. I hurried back inside to check on her son's injuries, but when I pulled back the bed covers, I couldn't believe my eyes. Lying beneath the sheets was a mummified corpse. I stood there in absolute astonishment, staring at the pile of bones and leathery old skin. The father approached me, hanging his head in shame. "It was my wife I wanted you to see," he said. "This has been going on for years. I can't take it anymore." Ooh. This story is just, I don't know, I don't feel like it's that extremely scary, but then the thing that no one had seen the son in 6 years, meaning he had probably been dead for 6 years, and the mom was that insane, and it's a little creepy. But yeah, I kind of really like this story anyways. But on to the next story, and this is it's also on this story, trigger warning for suicide. But I really like this story, and it's called Getting Old. When I was in university, I wanted to make a little extra money during the summer, so I got a job working for a courier company. One day, I had to deliver some luggage to a man named Mr. Yamaguchi. His apartment was on the 12th floor of a tall building. I was in a rush because I wanted to get home early that day. I took the elevator to the 12th floor and managed to deliver the luggage to Mr. Yamaguchi safely. He even gave me a big tip. As I was leaving, I happened to notice that there was a note on the door of the apartment next to Mr. Yamaguchi's. It read, "Old man with bad legs. Can't go down to throw away trash. Could someone please help me?" I hesitated for a moment. Although I wanted to go home early, my mother always taught me to help people in need. I rang the the doorbell. I rang the doorbell and waited. The door was immediately opened by an old man who must have been at least 80 years of age. "I saw your note," I said. "Thank you so much, young man," he replied with a smile. "Getting old is a terrible thing, especially when you're alone. Just wait a moment and I'll get it for you." He went back into his apartment and rummaged around. A few minutes later, the old man emerged and handed me a small cardboard box. It was sealed with duct tape. It felt unnaturally heavy. "Yes, getting old is very hard," he continued. "Some days you feel you'd be better off dead." I didn't want to get into an awkward conversation with the old guy, so I just replied, "No problem, I'll throw this away for you." I turned to leave, but the old man followed me out to the elevator. "Thank you so much for doing this," he muttered. "Sorry to bother you, it was very nice to meet you." "Yeah, see you later," I replied as I jumped the bottom for the ground floor. The doors closed and the elevator descended. The box was so heavy, I wondered what could be inside. Then I thought about the old man. Were his legs really so bad that he couldn't use the elevator? Perhaps he was just lonely and wanted someone to talk to. Suddenly, the box was ripped out of my hands. It hit the ceiling, it hit the ceiling of the elevator with a loud metallic clang. The elevator ground to a halt between the 6th and 7th floors. The box fell back down to the floor with a heavy thud. I was so shocked, I didn't know what to do. I noticed a long, thin metal wire. It led out of the box and through the crack in the elevator doors. After opening the box with my penknife, I was surprised to find that all it contained was a heavy concrete lock with piano wire wrapped around it. I wanted to ask the old man what was going on, so I pressed the button for the 12th floor. When the elevator stopped and the doors opened, I gasped in horror. Then I took out my cell phone, called the police immediately, and waited for them to come. The old man had wrapped the other end of the piano wire around his neck. His body was lying in front of the elevator in a pool of blood. His head had rolled over and come to a rest at the apartment door. Ooh, okay. That one is really creepy to me, just because, like, the end, like, he got decapitated, and I don't know, that's just really creepy to me. And I don't know why, it's just like, honestly, like, if decapitation isn't creepy to some people, if decapitation isn't creepy to you, get help. The next one, and this is like my favorite one, but also trigger warning for eating disorders. Like, I would still, like, it's not really an eating disorder an eating disorder isn't mentioned like that, but still trigger warning for eating disorders because, well, you'll see. And this is like my favorite horror story right now. I really, really like it. And yeah, so let's get into it. My sister Sarah disappeared a week ago. My mother hasn't gone to the police. We haven't put up any missing posters. We aren't looking for her at all. That's because we know exactly where she is. Our neighbors think we don't care about Sarah. They think we aren't doing enough to find her. Some people are spreading rumors that we killed her and buried her body somewhere. Others suspect we're keeping her hidden in the basement. They're all wrong. There's no body and she's not hidden, but nobody will ever find her. I like to tell them what happened, but they would never believe me. There was an empty bottle of perfume sitting on the dressing table of my mother's bedroom. I never knew why she kept it there. As far back as I can remember, it was just there. My mother was a beauty queen. She was crowned Miss Virginia 1990. She played the video for us many times. She looked perfect, standing there on stage with her long blonde hair, her big green eyes, her perfect teeth, and her sparkling gown. She sang "God Bless America," she juggled sparkles. She replied to all the judges' questions with a smooth answer and a gleaming smile. If I had just one wish, I would wish for world peace, she said. I like to make the whole world hold hands, because you can't make a fist when you're holding hands. She looked like the perfect American girl. She looked like America. She looked like patriotism, idealism, and pink bubblegum all rolled into one. My mother made us watch that video over and over again until we had memorized every line. My mother knew all about being perfect and wanted us to learn to be perfect just like her. She won the competition and was crowned Miss Virginia that year, but when it came to the Miss America pageants, she didn't even place in the top 20 contestants. That put an end to her career as a beauty queen. 2 years after that, she met my father. A year later, they were married. Soon afterwards, Sarah was born. 2 years later, shortly before I was born, my father left and never came back. Sarah doesn't remember what he looked like. I never met him. My mother threw out all the pictures long ago. Sarah was 2 years older than me. She was always the pretty one. She's got all the attention. She had long blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She had pale, milky skin and her favorite color was pink. She always had a smile on her face. She learned how to turn her frowns upside down. My mother had big plans for Sarah. She wanted her to be a beauty queen, just like her. It all started on Sarah's 13th birthday. She blew out the candles and cut the cake. "You're getting fat," my mother told her. "We'll have to put you on a diet." Sarah didn't eat any birthday cake that day. After that, she spent a long time staring at herself in the bathroom mirror. "Look at those chubby cheeks," my mother would say. "You need to lose weight." I didn't think Sarah was fat, but I didn't dare to disagree with Mother. After all, she was the beauty queen. "Look at those thighs," my mother would say to her. "It's disgusting, you're turning into a big fat lump." A few weeks later, my mother told Sarah she would stop eating food altogether. My sister reluctantly agreed. Girls always listen to their mothers. My mother took control of my sister's diet. She started feeding my sister 1 spoonful of pink jelly at every meal. She said it contained almost 0 calories. Sarah began rapidly losing weight. After a few months of this, she was painfully thin and frail. She was starving. Her body was wasting away to practically nothing. She got dizzy whenever she tried to stand up. The jelly diet went on for a month, until Sarah was so weak that she couldn't even get out of bed. One morning, I heard my sister call me. "Helen," she wailed, "I'm melting." I ran into her room and saw that her fingers were sticking to the bed sheets. A thin pink goo was beginning to ooze over the sides of the bed, dripping onto the floor. When I pulled back the sheets, I was horrified to see that her body was slowly dissolving into a pink jelly. Her legs had melted together. She looked like a mermaid. Sarah's thin lips twisted into a weak smile. "I feel so beautiful," she whispered. "So very beautiful." I ran downstairs to fetch our mother. She hurried up the stairs, but when she entered Sarah's room, she didn't seem at all surprised. "Help me move her," my mother said. Together we scooped up as much of Sarah as we could and carried her into the bathroom. My mother filled the bath with warm water and we carefully lowered my sister in. We knelt beside the tub for a while, watching my sister dissolve. Soon there was nothing left but an empty nightgown floating in the pink liquid. My mother turned to me and said, "Helen, go get the perfume bottle on my dressing table." That's where my sister is now. Every day I sneak into my mother's room and stare into the perfume bottle. It looks so beautiful. The pink liquid inside swirls around gracefully and the pink bubbles rise to the top. If I squint very hard, I can almost imagine my sister's beautiful face swirling around in the liquid. "It's better this way," my mother said. "Now she'll always be young and beautiful." This morning, when I sneaked into my mother's room to look at my sister's remains, there was another empty perfume bottle sitting beside it on the dressing table. I think it's my turn to be a beauty queen.
I think it's my turn to be a beauty queen.
That one also, it's my favorite. I love it. And it's just because it's so fucked up, and you know me, I love fucked up things. I am a fucked up thing, but I just love it. But those were all of the stories that I had today, sadly. But if you liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and you can comment something if you want to, please. So I hope you have a good day, week, month, year, and I'll see you next time. Bye!